All right, well, today's guest needs no introduction. She's a Hall of Famer, and LSU is thrilled that she is now their women's head basketball coach, Kim Mulkey. Coach, thanks so much for making the time.
Thank you for asking me.
So it's been a little bit since you were named the head coach. People are thrilled. What's the feedback been?
Well, obviously, when you're newly hired, everybody loves you because you haven't lost a game yet. So everybody thinks you're great. It's good to be home. The excitement for the women's basketball program is really high right now. We're selling lots of season tickets. You know as well as a lot of people, there are a couple players coming with me. We've already got a commitment from an underclassman in Texas. So we're working remotely a lot because my coaches are trying to find homes and we're back and forth. But we're working nonetheless, and it's crazy busy. It's stressful somewhat. It will settle down at some point, but we can only do so much each day.
Is there a juggling act right now?
Yes. Juggling everything. Juggling being in Waco, moving boxes, moving stuff. What do I need here? Finding a house, hiring a staff, recruiting, trying to do some things with your offices. There's so much. Meeting with alums, meeting with donors. But, it'll settle down. Right now, this is what needs to be, happening, and I'll do as much as I can.
From what I understand right now, season tickets are over 4,000 or something like that. And here we are in early June. What would you like the experience to be for fans, and what would you like to tell them about what they're going to see when they come to the PMAC?
Well, I think that, one, I'd like to get those season tickets above 5,000, and just think about that. You're selling that number of season tickets, and we haven't, as a staff, even coached our first game at LSU. So that's exciting. I want them to be realistic. We're not going to wave a magic wand and be in the Final Four because you have a new staff. It's going to take time. What I hope they see is an energy and just a staff that wants what they want. We want to win, and we want to do it quickly. But I want them to be realistic on what they see. Do they see improvement? Do they see better players on that floor? Are they watching what we're trying to do? And while we may be, not as talented as our opponent, are we competing? Are we getting the most out of kids? And then just watch as we continue to build the program and recruit. I want them involved. I want a booster club that has large numbers. I want fans in the stands no matter how many games we win. I want them to feel that they can touch me, feel me, and they know our staff. I want to be in the community. I want to be accessible. That's how you build it. That's how you maintain it. And it's the same way with recruiting. Recruiting is about relationships. And I hope that some of the young ladies that we were recruiting at Baylor will now say, hey, I need to go check out LSU. We may not get them, but we're now on their radar.
Do you ever look down and say, I'm wearing purple?
Actually, I look down at this pen that was given to me and think, God works in mysterious ways. And I am blessed. I'm blessed to be able to coach this great game of basketball. I'm blessed to be back home. I'm blessed to have a staff that came with me.
I saw you throw out the pitch the other day, the first pitch at the LSU softball game. And I look down on the field, I see you with those sunglasses bouncing around, and I say, there's somebody who seems a lot younger than what they are. Do you sit down and say, I can do this for 10 years and then transition into administration? Do you have a timeline? How many years do you think you could coach the Lady Tigers?
I think the first thing you think about is your health. I'm not in control of that. I try to eat right. I try to exercise. I don't eat right. I'm back home in Louisiana, and I love to eat. But I think some things are out of our control. Our health. You want to work in any profession as long as you can, as long as you're healthy. The second thing is, am I being effective? Is the product on the floor good? And I think those are the determining factors. You have some coaches who are lifers. You've got coaches in their 70s still coaching. And then you have those who get enough years and save enough money and go, I'm not a lifer, it's time to move on. I never wanted to be a coach. And here I am literally 36 years later, if you count up the assistants a number of years I was an assistant, associate head coach, and a head coach. 36 years. I've been doing this since I was 23 years of age. I don't have the personality where I get out because I'm burned out. I have learned through the years to take time away. I have learned through the years to surround yourself with assistants who are younger and have the energy, and they keep you on top of things in social media or things kids enjoy. You can never become stagnant in this profession. If you do, people are going to pass you by.
It seems to me that the average person would say, okay, here comes Kim Mulkey. She's inheriting this team that went 9-13. These girls are going to get a run off. We're going to bring in a whole new wave of people. It seems like you are doing your best to embrace the players that you're inheriting and give them the opportunity to prove themselves to be on this team.
Well, you don't just come in and clean house. These are young people. These are their lives. You be honest with them. Now, you know, there are some that will not come that were on the team previously. There will be some recruits that won't come. I believe in being honest with them. I'm not bringing, a boatload of players with me. I'm bringing 2. And you have to create a culture that you want young people to graduate from college. You don't just say, oh, I'm a new coach, get out of here, I didn't recruit you. Heck no, you inherit players that can play too. You just have a different system that you may put into place. And then you build upon that. It's tough. It's tough to play for a coach that didn't recruit you. I understand that. It's tough for a coach to coach players that you really don't know anything about. But just be honest with them. I just find honesty is the best policy, and sometimes being brutally honest hurts your feelings as long as you're not belittling them and that they feel you. I think kids will run through a wall for you.
Have you had a conversation with Nikki Fargas?
I have not.
Hadn't spoken to her?
I have not. I don't know Nikki like that. The last conversation I had with Nikki, I called her about Chloe Jackson before I took her as a transfer. Okay. I get the opportunity to coach Nikki's niece.
That's right.
And I'm looking forward to that.
I was just curious, there's sometimes that conversation, what am I inheriting?
Well, yes, and coaches who are friends do that, and I guarantee if I called her, she would tell me those things. But I tend to believe that sometimes we're better off if I don't have an opinion and I judge you based upon my dealings with you. What taught me, why do I think like that? I remembered 21 years ago when I inherited the Baylor program. Sanja Hogue, my former coach at Louisiana Tech, is who I was replacing. I didn't make one phone call to her about players. Yeah. I needed to judge them on my own. In fact, one of her players had quit the team. And she walked in my door when I was hired and said, may I come back? And she ended up being a first-round draft pick and an all-conference player and just an unbelievable talent. And had I probably talked to people who knew the story of why she quit, I might not have let her come back. I have a lot of respect for Nikki. I remember her when she played for Pat Summitt, just a great player, a good person, a mother, a wife. Unfortunately in this business, sometimes we have to pack up and move on, and sometimes by choice, sometimes not by choice. But it's my understanding this was, Nikki's choice, and she gets to go to that next level and work in the front offices of a WNBA franchise.
Moon Ursin, so this is the newest news with you in terms of your roster. This is a girl that, quite frankly, fans would say, well, why can't we keep the talent in state? And so now she's coming back home. Tell us about her.
Well, sometimes you can't keep the talent in state, and you worked harder than anybody to keep them in state as a coaching staff. Kids go different places for different reasons. Moon Ursin, from Destrehan, won all those state championships in high school, Gatorade Player of the Year. She came to Baylor, she visited, She knew my connection to Louisiana, and she is one of the finest people that I have ever coached. Well, what do you mean finest? Well, first of all, she's a great athlete. She's an outstanding basketball player, but when you meet her, she's so smart. She's so pleasant. Moon could do anything she wants to do in life. So it'll be interesting to watch her this next year, how much the fans embrace her. Beautiful smile, leaps out of the gym, can come off screens and shoot a jump shot. You don't see the mid-range jumper anymore. You don't see it in the men's game. You don't see it in the women's game. Moon can shoot a jump shot as good as anybody you've ever seen play the game. Quick, strong. You look at her body, I like to tease her and say, man, God just blessed you. You just look like a muscle. People pay for those kind of bodies. Her family's excited, about her, coming to LSU. I'm certainly honored that she came with me, and she's going to be a fan favorite.
What about scheduling, Coach? Can you call Gino up and tell him, hey, can you come to Baton Rouge?
I couldn't even do that at Baylor, Scheduling is as hard as recruiting. Too many times coaches overschedule. They want to, put 5 top 10 teams on the non-conference schedule. Oh, we'll get 5 to 10,000 in there. Well, and get your brains beat out? And how are you going to sell that to a recruit? Okay? So scheduling is a fine line until you get better. And when you get better, you schedule better. And I did that at Baylor, and look where they are today. Some coaches have a totally different philosophy. My deal is the SEC, that's hard enough. So let me take these non-conference games and let me get better. And it may not be necessarily what fans think it needs to be, but the fans aren't at practice every day. They don't see the talent. They don't see what we've got to get better doing, and that's okay. I want the fans to be excited, talk about women's basketball, but this isn't our first rodeo, as they say out in the country.
Well, then the problem is you get too good and they don't want to come get their brains beat in, right?
No. I've had a blessed career, and I've been blessed to coach some of the greatest to ever play this game. I've been blessed to have a staff that has stayed with me, guys. And they stay with you because you take care of them financially. They stay with you because they believe in what you're doing. And you give them responsibilities. And I still have some more spots to fill on my staff, and move this one and move this one. It'll happen. Because I want the right people. I want the people that want to be at LSU. I want the people that love this place as much as I love it. And we will work extremely hard.
Will Wade, we visited with him the other day, and he said the day after you got the job, LSU got a $100,000 donation from a booster up around, I guess maybe in Ruston or something like that. How big of a role do you think you can play in raising money, and what about the facilities here? Are they what you want them to be?
Well, Will, I wish I would have known he was at the press conference. I would have acknowledged him. I knew Paul Maneri was there, Dee Bro. I wish the former players had told me they were in the stands. I would have acknowledged them. That is important to me. We are getting lots of donations right now from friends, from family, but most importantly from people who love LSU. And they're coming from different areas. Some of these donations are people who never have given to women's basketball before. And we certainly recognize we need them. You cannot win without good facilities, without good offices. You just can't. A lot of what I'm seeing now with facilities is a lot of what I saw 21 years ago when I took the job at Baylor. I know what it takes to clean up offices, to make it presentable to recruits, to be proud to walk in, an office complex. Yes, we will work very hard to upgrade it. I know that it's been spoken to me that the future is we want to put men's and women's basketball offices in the PMAC. I love that because I've always worked where my offices were in the facility that you coached in. So that, they tell me, is on the drawing board. You can't do that without resources and without money, and it's going to take people to give and want that. As far as the facilities, on how nice it is, it'll be nice at LSU. We're going to get it done. I firmly believe that. I'm meeting every day that I'm in Baton Rouge, either having lunch or dinner with donors, and I am sure Taft can tell you how much money we have raised already. And I've only had 2 days, and I'm not going to stop. I said it at the press conference. If you think Dee Bro got her new facility built by bugging you, well, I'm going to bug you twice as much. I don't care what it takes. I know that we have to have great facilities. We got to win, but you can't go win without recruits. And this day and age, when recruits come on a campus, first impressions for young people can be lasting.
By the way, I think you two are like the new favorite duo around here, Dee Dee and Kim, like this power duo, these besties.
Well, let me tell you, Dee Dee, she is a great resource. She's been here. She knows how things operate. She has personality plus. She has fought battles that I never have fought to try to get things done. I am the recipient of the battles Dee Bro has fought for women, and at LSU, at a place I'm now employed. I'm fascinated, by her spunk and by her energy and how she just tells it like it is. And I don't know if that's a Louisiana culture thing or what, but I love it. I love seeing Stephanie Rimp, who is Scott Woodward's right hand. I love to see women that are aggressive and running athletic departments, and you can use them as resources. And Scott's been phenomenal. Scott just, he gets to the point. He's in the background. He gets it, and he loves Louisiana. He loves this state like I do.
We have a text message chain with a few of us. And when your name popped up for this job, we have a friend of ours, nice guy, but sometimes he's a little pessimistic. I think one of the text messages was, there's a 0.0053 chance that she's coming here. Don't get excited. This isn't happening. It's not going to happen. And here we are sitting with you today. It's a loaded question, and I know you talked about it at your press conference, but how did LSU get you into this position?
I think more than anything I could tell you is the timing in my life. Salary was mentioned. Baylor took care of me. Salary is not that much different than what I was making at Baylor. That was never the deciding factor. In fact, a lot of coaches negotiate and do all that. Never was that done. I did not hear the salary from LSU and go back to Baylor and say, give me more money. I don't operate like that. It was the timing in my life, and it just felt right. You say, well, Coach, you built that program and you could just kind of coast to retirement a little bit. I don't know that that is who I am. I don't know that that is how you're supposed to do it. And we could have, I left a top 5 team in the country there. I didn't leave the cupboard bare. It was just, it felt right to come back to Louisiana for a lot of reasons. And I'm leaving my grandkids in Waco, Texas. But it just kept gnawing at me that something is telling you, go do this. Is it to win basketball games and championships? Absolutely. But it just felt like it may be more than that. It just may be more than that. What that is, I don't know. But it just felt right.
Two things that have been brought up. LSU needed a victory. It felt like since LSU football won that national championship against Clemson, the news had been rough, whether it was COVID or racial tensions or this Hush Blackwell report. Oh, we need a victory. And Kim Mulkey was such a huge victory. What role do you think you would play in women's issues? Because a lot of people have said we needed a empowered woman on this campus to tackle some of these things.
Well, I'm flattered that people would think that, just me being hired, but we have women that are empowered at this university. I just mentioned two of them, in Stephanie Rimp and Dee Dee Bro. I just believe that one's life's works speak volume on who they are and what they stand for more than somebody's mouth talking about it. I would want people that, and people do know me in Louisiana. They can go back to my growing up during integration, going back to my getting kicked out of the dugout as a girl, you know, a little league, Dixie Youth and Pony League. I've lived all of that. They know the stories better than I do. So I don't know that I can overstep my boundary of what my job is, but if my presence can help someone, if my experience from life's dealings can help someone, then who wouldn't be for that? I am a person that believes that let everybody do their job and do it well, and if you need my help, I'll be the first one there to help you. If it's something that I know nothing about, I am not too prideful to tell you, you're out of my league, I can't help you with that.
There was a conversation on the radio the other day somebody brought up, and they said, can you imagine if a player went to Kim Mulkey and said, Coach, such and such happened to me? Do you think Kim Mulkey would take it lying down?
You know, it's so interesting because I lived through the sexual harassment stuff at Baylor. My son-in-law was a football player at Baylor. I can tell you this unequivocally, so much needed to be taught to the faculty and staff on what is the appropriate thing to do. We know by being raised right, the appropriate thing to do is absolutely you help, but it's not the proper procedure and protocol. And so I learned so much through Title IX stuff, as did people who lost their jobs. And they didn't know, you know, the proper procedures and protocols other than to go to the police, you know, and things. But they tell you can't do those kinds of things. You have to go, you know, and learn. And I watched and I observed, but you can rest assured no female, no anybody can come to see Kim Mulkey and I ignore it. That's not who I am. And you just help in the way you've been taught and you know how to help. Look, I've got a locker room full of women, you know. I've got a daughter. I'm getting ready to have a granddaughter. No, you do the right thing. It's what I tell people. Always do the right thing and you can put your head on your pillow at night and sleep.
Now, you had a very emotional press conference, too, where you talked about those things.
Well, you speak from your heart sometimes, and when you speak from your heart, your emotion comes out. What you see with me is what you get. You got to take the good with the bad, but I always say, I hope far more good is within me than bad. And I speak from the heart on everything that I do. I speak at press conferences, after losses, after victories. You know, I talk real, as my players like to say. Coach, you just make it real.
I thought one of your best moments at your introductory press conference was when you acknowledged Paul Maneri. Mm-hmm. And you said, my son came here, and basically he was a cocky little brat when he came here, and you turned him into a man. Mm-hmm. Coach Maneri's retiring. I have covered a lot of coaches here. To me, he really is set apart from so many. Always returns a phone call. If he does miss your phone call, he apologizes for missing your phone call. He's never turned down a charity appearance or event. He's just treated us very, very well. And a lot of pressure on him here, obviously, to win, and he did a lot of winning here. Just your thoughts now that he's going to retire.
Well, I think people need to understand what I meant by that comment. Kramer went from an 18-year-old, thought he knew everything about baseball, to being humbled, go to the bench, doesn't get to go to that World Series that year because he had an injury, and then he stays his 4 years because he lost his junior year to Coastal Carolina, and you watched the evolution of a young man grow, not because he was loved on by Mainieri or because he was pampered. He was challenged. He made him understand, pick yourself back up. He was on that field with him and coaching him hard and not playing him. That is a sign of a true coach. And he helped Kramer grow to understand, you're an All-American now. You're going to leave LSU having played for the national championship. And some of Paul Mainieri's better teams didn't play for the national championship. They went to a World Series. But that particular team had leadership. And I saw it from my own child. He would talk to you and talk to the media as if he was a little coach out there. And that makes you proud, and you learn that from your coaches. Paul, he's kind. He has a soft heart. And yet sometimes coaching can make you become calloused and make you not like the media. Run from the media. I never witnessed that from a distance as a parent watching Paul, and I thought he just handled himself in the shadows somewhat of what Skip Bertman built at LSU. I know the coach in between, Smoke and all that, but he was handpicked by Skip. Not many people could handle that pressure. And I think Paul Mainieri handled it graciously, and he went out on his own terms. And don't all of us as coaches want to go out on our own terms? And he's won a lot of baseball games. And that tells you enough about Paul Mainieri.
People make it too simplistic. They go immediately to 3 national championships, for example. You were there in 2017. Winning one more, just in my opinion, kind of changes the narrative for a lot of those people. They just had bad luck, right? Eric Walker got hurt and some other things went wrong when you were there in Omaha.
That many inches from Kramer sliding into home plate. That close. And that's the way it is in sports. How many great coaches in sports never win one? Think about that. I can name you several. There are more that don't win it than do win it. And you never want to finish second, but you can always go back and say we were right there. And I sure wouldn't trade a moment of that game to finish 4th or 3rd or 5th or never getting there again. And we are judged as coaches by wins and losses. Let's just lay that out there. But when our careers are over, did we impact the school that we worked for? Did we impact the young people that we coach? Did we teach the coaches on our staff how to conduct themselves and go on to become great coaches themselves? And those are the things that I think most coaches will tell you. Some of us are just a lot more blessed and lucky and have experienced it more than others, but some of the greatest coaches I know have never won a national championship. It is that hard.
Is it harder to challenge players in the year 2021 than it was? I'm sure maybe there was a day Leon Barmore told you something, hurt your feelings, and if there was Twitter, you might have gone on Twitter. These days, it looks like it's harder to be, old school.
Without question, it's harder. You evolve in life, you evolve in sports. It is so much more difficult, and a lot of it has to do with social media. And then the stuff where kids, I do believe this won't ever change. Our chief want in life is for someone to push us and make us to become what we're capable of becoming. Some are self-motivators, but some just need you to stay on them and help grind with them and believe in them. Some need discipline them. I don't think that will ever change. What has changed is society a little bit makes it easier for kids to quit, to transfer, those types of things. And that is a struggle for all of us as coaches. The transfer portal is now a daily part of coaching. It's like free agency in baseball. And you've got starters transferring. You've got leading scorers transferring. And it's for all kinds of different reasons. But what you have to do as a coach is you just have to keep knowing in your head, I'm doing what is right. And but it's much different. It's much different.
It's a complicated deal.
It is.
Like, for example, you've taken in a couple from Baylor. They didn't quit over there. Not like they're struggling or something. They're coming to join you and join this movement.
It's a relationship. They're coming to join the coach that recruited them. And yet those stories are understandable. You may not like them, but they're understandable. But the ones I'm talking about are kids that, back in the day, you transferred because you didn't play. You transferred, because of a coach moving to another job. But now, the reasons kids transfer, it's you just shake your head and go, what are they learning by doing that? And it's not going to go away. So whether coaches like it or not, it's a part of recruiting now. So basically, you're recruiting from the transfer portal, you're recruiting from high school, and sometimes I wonder, how do you develop high school kids? How do you develop them if by the time they're sophomores and juniors, they leave and go somewhere else? I understand the narrative of, well, coaches can leave all the time. The numbers are not comparable. First of all, you only have 360-something head coaches in the country. You have thousands in a transfer portal. It's difficult. It's different, but you adjust or you get left behind.
We covered Chloe Jackson here.
There's another example right there.
Very impressive.
Yes.
Graduated from LSU.
Yes.
Goes to Baylor. It's a game-winning shot.
And is MVP of the national championship. And we didn't recruit her out of high school. That's a classic example of the transfer portal and how important it is and how it helps you.
And the guy who won the Heisman Trophy here a couple of years ago, Burrow.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is ancient history. It's a what-if question. I'm just curious, what you accomplished at Baylor, could you have done that at Louisiana Tech if you would have become the head coach of Louisiana Tech?
Well, I think on the surface, people would tell you probably not because of the resources available from Power 5 conferences. But I would have stayed there and thought that I could, and who knows? I know that Leon Barmore, Sanja Hogue, myself, and all the great players that played at Louisiana Tech would tell you, yes, certainly I could. Connecticut is an example of that. Connecticut is not in a Power 5 conference, but look what they have done. Yeah. So I tend to think personally, you keep something going. Once you lose it, you've probably lost it forever. And I was confident enough that I would have been the next one to just kind of keep it going. But people will tell you that would be much more difficult today because of resources from the bigger conferences.
2004-2005 season, the LSU Lady Tigers are 33-2 heading into the Final Four against Baylor. LSU jumps out to a 24-9 lead in the first half with the Mount Rushmore, as I referred to them, Simone Augustus, Tamika Johnson, and Sylvia Fowles, and somehow LSU loses to Baylor 68-57. Really tough night in the history of LSU women's basketball, but in your career, really what kind of propelled you, huh?
Well, the best player in the country, Simone Augustus, the best post player at that time in the country, Sylvia Fowles, and the best point guard in Tamika Johnson, and that's exactly how I presented the scouting report. We had already played them earlier in the year. And I packed one outfit because I was just so ecstatic that we were in the Final Four. I was like, how in the world are we going to beat them? You know, and if we do, I'll go buy an outfit. It was the first national championship at Baylor. That was my 5th year there in coaching. We did not have the blue chip McDonald's All-American players on my team. And we got on a roll and just got there. So then when we're down at halftime, that many points, most people will tell you I'm a man-to-man coach. I think it was a case of probably just desperation. Didn't want to be embarrassed the second half. And we just ironically for about a few 15, 30 minutes in the practice the day before went over a 3-2 zone. Only time I've ever run it. You can say, wow, that was a great coaching move. Well, it was a desperation move more than it was a strategy move on me having taught the 3-2 so well that we were going to stop them and get back in the game. They started missing shots. We stayed in that zone. We would give them one shot, rebound the ball, and head to the other end, hit some trail threes, got back in the game, got on a roll, and bam, we win the ball game. Certainly, I won't ever forget it because we beat what I considered the most talented team in the country. And then years later in my career, I had that most talented team in the country, and I didn't win it. So what goes around in this business comes around. You win games and championships that maybe you shouldn't. You weren't the most talented. And then you lose those championships when you were the most talented. So I understand the feelings of both. And I think coaches tend to have that personality too. We forget the great games. We forget, you know, things that we should probably dwell on more. We kind of think about, God, I was so close to winning that one, or darn, we let that one slip away. But that's the competitive nature of people.
Well, I was visiting with Skip Burtman the other day, and if I can say this name in this building, Nick Saban, when he won his last national championship, oh, Coach, you've won. Was it 7 now? Whatever it is. I lost those 2.
You do. You do. That is the truth. And the thing that you have to be careful of, the older you get, if you dwell on those that you let slip away, then you need to get out of the profession. You don't smell the roses until your career is over. But you got to keep perspective. And that's what I've tried to do. I sometimes will be driving and thinking about things, and I'll think, God, I had that great team and we didn't win it all. And then I go back and go, Kim, you had this team that won it all and they were not the... So I try to keep perspective because that's what motivates the type A personality coaches, is that you're constantly striving to put a product on the floor that, one, the fans love to watch. Some of the greatest teams I've ever coached were not the most talented teams. And some of the greatest moments I had were with teams that didn't win a national championship. I can't say that didn't win a Big 12 championship because we won 23 of those. So most of them were a part of some championship in some capacity. But it was just thinking back, wow, we beat that team. How did we beat that team? And it was, you know, it was just great moments that I don't ever want to forget those either.
Coach Mulkey, really appreciate it. Thanks for all the time today.
You bet you, buddy.